Can we really understand where our motivations come from? Can we really understand the preconception behind those actual motivations? This is mostly a question, but I just thought I would ask this question to make us think deeper about how we kind of develop our motives and how we kind of view motivation in general.
And who, at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
Welcome back to the Winter Arc Podcast. Today is September the 18th, and this is journal entry number 14. So I kind of wanted to talk about preconceptions and how preconceptions can actually form our motivations. Granted, this is just a thought that I kind of wrote down today, and I don't think that this is like a way to look at psychology and how motivation works and all that other stuff, but I just thought I would read my thoughts about this and kind of think through this a little bit with you. And maybe you can leave your thoughts in the comments or DM me on X. My username on X is _winter_arc. And so basically, I just wanted to talk about this one thing that I was looking at and what I kind of wrote down from the idea of where our motivations might come from. The preconception is made before the motive that is realized. Your preconceptions can actually be a precursor to the way you do something. This might seem obvious, but it is deeper than one thinks. You can only realize your preconception or preconceptions about something once you have discovered your motives, whether intentional or not. Most of the time, we use noise and excuses to avoid asking deeper questions about ourselves. This is why we are able to choose ignorance, because we choose to not discover our motives because we are too scared to uncover harsh realities and truths about our own intentions that lead to our preconceptions eventually becoming a motivation. It's easier to hide behind a blind lie that puts on a mask in front of our real motivations in pursuit of our self-preservation because we unconsciously believe our preconceptions are the truth. Self-preservation can take the form of believing a lie about our actual motivations, ignoring the preconceptions that have become a part of your identity and belief system, unable and unwilling to change because it's a survival mechanism that is enhanced by community, love, belonging, and physical/emotional safety. But it is important to reveal the shadow of the motivations, the preconceptions that blind us from the reality of ourselves, because deep down we can be truly selfish to ourselves because we are always thinking internally, not externally. Social media only reaffirms the affirmations that we find in our immediate connections. This is how we find people who are strangers, and this is how we connect to people who are strangers on the internet, because they share similar sentiments and beliefs, because it is a defensive tool that gives us the excuse to not question our preconceptions that lead into our motives. So I think that this is kind of a question as to whether this is like elements of Carl Jung's The Shadow. And if you don't know what that is, basically the shadow, Carl Jung's quote unquote shadow, that he talked a lot about was basically this thing that hides in the back of our subconscious that it has formed over time through the way we filter the world. So like, for instance, from a young age, we're taught things like, oh, lying's bad, cheating is bad, blah, blah, blah. And so basically when we're growing up, our parents and people around us will make sure that we are ashamed of when we do lie or when we do cheat or whatever we do. But this can actually be connected to anything. It doesn't have to be like bad things like lying and cheating and stuff like that. It could be connected to cultural significance. It could be connected to religious sentiments. It could be even connected to political beliefs, obviously. But I think this is interesting and something to be aware of, because at the end of the day, we all have our preconceptions about the world. And so that actually forms the way we use our motivations and the way we form our motivations. And again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a person. I'm actually talking to someone right now about this as to whether this is actually something that is accurate in psychology. And if it is accurate in psychology, what would it be called? And what would the actual like studied terms and what would the actual sources be to something like this? Because I really want to find out more, because these are the thoughts that I'm having recently of like, okay, well, why do I want to make good habits? Why do I want to break bad habits? And what is making me to do that? Obviously, I have a preconception of what is already bad, right? So I'm going to make a motivation based on that preconception. Or the conversation and the argument can be made that, oh, I have a preconception to be a good person or to strive for more. And that preconception can turn into the motivation of, oh, I want to build a business. I want to do this. I want to do that. But I'm really simplifying it right now because I think that this idea of preconceptions turning into motivations is bigger than I initially really have thought about, because it literally forms everything we believe about ourselves and others, and it becomes reaffirmed through unintentional manipulation through the relationships we build and through every single thing that we do in every single day of life. So I don't know what to really think about this yet, but I'm going to actually look into this more because I'm really interested to see if there's more to this that I can find in psychology, and just more to this too, and how we can actually use this to our advantage to look deeper within ourselves to realize, okay, what are the things in my life that are actually making it harder for me to gain motivations to actually do XYZ, like build a new habit or break a bad habit. And so how do we form the preconceptions, or how do we change the preconceptions that we might not be consciously aware of so that we can actually make good or bad habits? So this is just mostly, this podcast episode is mostly in this journal and this journal entry is mostly just posing that question. And I think I'm going to actually answer this in an interview that I do in the future on this podcast, but I just thought I would open the conversation and open the idea of, what does this actually mean for us? And what does this mean for literally every single thing we believe about ourselves and everyone else around us? And so long story short, I really believe it has a lot to do with the way we form our motivations and the way we look at productivity and the way we look at building new motivations for new habits. And I think that there is something to be said about the fact that there's a lot of different things that keep us from wanting to pursue certain things. Like, for instance, when I was talking about indifference the other day, I felt like it was such a demotivator because it was like this attribute of people around me making me feel like my ideas weren't worth it, right? And so that in turn made me unmotivated. And so the question is, when we realize this, and when we realize that this is where our preconceptions come from about how people treat us and about how we interact with others, then maybe there is something to be said about simple things like the people we surround ourselves with and how we actually interact in a community, and how a community is so vitally important to building up who you are and into the person you want to be, or who you're called to be ultimately, as I believe God has called each of us. But as time goes on, I really want to answer this question more in depth, and hopefully, as I said, in an actual interview with an expert. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and you will see me, or you will rather hear me tomorrow.